Sahana vavatu, sahanau bhunaktu, sahaviryam karavavahai, tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. What is the relationship between Ishvara, Brahman, and Maya? See, there is one reality, and that one reality takes different names depending on which standpoint you look at it from. It's like water, right? Water has different names, such as bubble, frost, snow, lake, iceberg. You see this? Do any of these names contradict water? No. They're just different names to be understood, which are all pointing to the same reality. So as we said, Brahman, that is the final reality. And Brahman means big. Now, how big? Nothing's bigger than it, okay? It is that which accommodates everything. So it is the biggest of the biggest, and it is also the smallest of the smallest. So nothing can be outside its bigness, and nothing can be beyond its smallness. So this means Brahman is everything, everywhere, right now. And this reality is, in this text, we don't really call it Brahman, even though it will come, it's called Drg. Now you say, why do we have so many names for one reality? You know, we're going to have Satchit, we're going to have Drg, Sakshi, Atman, right? Why so many names? Right? What, chapter 13, Kshetrajna, right? Because if you just say Brahman, 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 consciousness, awareness, it's going to get so boring. This is how we are, right? We need variety. We need to stay afloat. We need to stay alert. So every time we say a new word, the mind kind of goes, what's that? So it relivens that attention, okay? So Brahman, being the final reality, has the capacity to manifest the universe. Before the universe is manifest, that capacity is called Maya, power, which is all knowledge and all capacity. That means when it's dormant, when it's not manifest in the universe, this power is called Maya, Maya Shakti. When the manifest universe occurs, as is happening right now, then that same power, all knowledge, all capacity, is called Ishvara. So as you go through the course, you will see it does matter that we do make a distinction between Maya and Ishvara. It matters a lot because Vedanta is very subtle. If one thing is missed, then you can still understand the reality, but the personality is not full. It's like living in a partial personality. And I explained this very well yesterday at the satsang, that things like, common, like Brahman, I am awareness, I am consciousness. We've all heard this. But if I ask you, does that touch your heart? At one of the sessions, I said, when I connect to the Drg. But actually, if you think about that, you can't connect to the Drg because everything is Drg. Therefore, to say I connect to you as consciousness, I just said I'm connecting to you as Drsya. You see? Therefore, you can't, so saying things like I'm consciousness, this doesn't really touch you. It doesn't create a transformation. And I learned this from Swami Dayananda and Nima. They have explained this brilliantly, and my whole paradigm has changed. So now, rather than saying consciousness and awareness and all this technical stuff, all that is here is Ishvara. All that is here is God. Now, when the person says it, they do not exclude themselves, because often we say all that is here is God, but then the person remains kind of safe. So this means one has to also include themselves. The one who said it, the inquirer, has to be included in Ishvara. And so when you understand Isvara, you understand that it is the laws and orders which are infallible, non-failing. They are operating since time immemorial. They never fail. They always deliver the results of actions according to what you do and don't do. So knowing that this law never fails and I can trust it, it gives you a certain emotional maturity. Nothing unfair is going to happen to me. Why? Because as Krishna said to Arjuna, you cannot not act. As long as you act with actions that are not opposed to dharma, they are keeping with dharma, there is nothing to worry about. This much I can have faith in. Having faith this much, all one needs to do really is to become aware, to bring this Isvara into one's life and abide by its laws. Doing so, one cannot fail in this journey. It is just becomes a pleasing journey of emotional maturity, of growth, of transformation, of perception starts to change. You start to have different connections, relationships with people, with the food that you eat, with yourself, with how patient you are, with death especially. It's okay. Death is just one process of life. Therefore, the relationship, that is where it all comes down to. We can speak all we want about this, Drg Drsya and so on, but how do you feel? How do you feel as a person in this world, right? When you're confronted by challenges, how do you feel right now? The whole course is about understanding and acknowledging what is right now, right here. Okay? So soon enough, we will be all at the airport, okay, a couple of days. And at the airport, we will see many people and, there will be busyness and so on. In that moment, can I bring this knowledge in? If I just bring I am consciousness, no change. Probably no change. I don't know how it is for you. Certainly I know for me, no change. If I say all that is here is Isvara, right? All of these people, they're just manifestations of this intelligence, right? Intelligence which has no reality apart from existence and awareness. So when I say all that is here is Isvara, I'm including the forms. The forms are true. The person is true. My emotions are true. You are true. So I'm including what is true right now. Isvara cannot be without a conscious being. You cannot think of an intelligence that puts together particles together at every level. An intelligence that is putting things together, this whole world right now, putting your brain cells together. How many cells are firing and wiring in your brain right now? A lot. How much electrical activity is going on in your brain? A lot right now. All of this is Isvara, this intelligence, manifesting as Otto, as Radhika, as Prem Buddha, okay? Manifesting as all of us right now. To that, I connect. Therefore, if you ask now, what's the difference between a wise person and an unwise person? Suppose we have a wave. And the wave is, has two eyes, and it looks around all of the other waves. And it takes its confinement to be real. Like I am one single wave in the ocean. And so it starts to eye other bigger waves, more successful waves. And then it starts to experience jealousy, smallness, inadequacy, because there's always a better, bigger wave than you as a person. So what the wave has to understand is the waveness is true. It's a fact. The waveness is true. My confinement is true. The wise wave understands, despite it being confined, it is confined. That's a fact. My consciousness is as though confined. I'm conscious from this standpoint of this person. I'm not conscious of Prem Buddha. I'm not conscious of what's going on in your mind. That's a fact. So the wise wave understands, despite the confinement, it is only as though. Because the truth of every wave in the entire ocean is water. It is your truth, it is my truth, it is everyone's truth. Now, what does the ocean represent? Well, not only does the wave acknowledge its waveness or waviness, but it has to bring one more reality, and that is the ocean. And my existence is not apart from the ocean. I play a part in the ocean. I have no existence apart from the ocean. I contribute to the ocean. And everyone else also is nothing but an expression of the one ocean. You depend on the ocean. I depend on the ocean. We all depend on this intelligence. And just like with the ocean, the content of the entire ocean is water, H2O. There is not one place that you can find in the ocean that is not H2O. Every single wave enjoys the exact same reality. Every wave is privileged to the same reality. No one is bigger, no one is smaller, no one is more inferior or is superior. This is just an ocean not keeping with the reality. So the wave looks around and says, wow, all that is here is ocean. I have no existence apart from it. You don't have an existence apart from it. We're all contributors in this one ocean whose truth, whose reality is the water. And for that reason, I can start to look at the waves differently, with a different relationship. No more do I start to judge them. Oh, what a, XYZ wave. No longer do I judge them. No longer do I let myself be taken on a trip, comparing one wave to the other. Because the knowledge comes in, this is an expression of Isvara. Everything is God right now, intelligence. And this intelligence, yes, it is also mithya. Think about this. Even intelligence, even Isvara is mithya. Even Maya is mithya. That's why we don't say it's an illusion. Because everything is mithya. If I call one thing here an illusion, if I call one wave in the ocean an illusion, what have I just done? Called the entire ocean an illusion, including the water. There's no illusion here. There's only reality. Manifesting as this, manifesting as different beings, different situations, different personalities, and that's okay. And it cannot be any other way, because Maya has always been there. And Maya projects the universe. And when it projects the universe, what happens? You have a being and you have the world. And the being coming with avarana shakti, the veiling power, doesn't know the difference between itself and the world and God. So it assumes me, the small being, am the drg. I, the small being, am the drg. And you and the world and God is Drsya, because it's not being given the knowledge. So the Vedanta comes in and says, we have to look into that. We have to reverse that relationship. Actually, the entire creation is incidental. It's just an incidental projection of this power, which is manifesting right now. You are an incidental being right now. Andre is an incidental being right now. Everything is a projection of Maya's Vikshepa Shakti. Right now, it's a projection. And Maya has no existence apart from Brahman. Therefore, all that is here is Brahman, consciousness. But saying that, I also include the forms. Therefore, we include all realities at once. The form, the intelligence, and consciousness. Otherwise, the whole equation doesn't work. It becomes a little thing in the mind. Because look at this, you cannot imagine consciousness. As long as a person is in their head, that's called subjectivity, and they're always adding their own stuff onto the world, they're always adding their own notions onto the world, then suppose one fine day, all my life I've been adding onto you, subtracting onto you, always making you something that you are not. Never really seeing you for who you are. And one fine day, Vedanta comes into one's life and says, you are consciousness. So what is that mind going to do now if it's not ready? Considering it's been using this empirical world as nothing but a substratum to project onto. Therefore, the world has been a substratum to project onto. And now someone introduces one more reality, consciousness. What do you think I'm going to do now? It too will become another thing to project onto. This is why before beginning the journey in Vedanta, we have an adhikari. Tattva Bodha said it very nicely. Adhikari, one who is ready, one who has a relatively pure mind, who simply is aware of when I'm projecting and when I'm going off a tangent. So if a reality gets introduced and I've been projecting all my life onto this reality, onto the reality of forms, then no matter what reality you tell me, it's too going to be the subject of my projection. Therefore, you cannot go from subjectivity onto the final reality. You first need to go from subjectivity onto seeing what is, onto this world, here, empirical world. The wave cannot go from waveness to water. It first needs to acknowledge the ocean. The ocean is here. Otherwise, the wave is constantly superimposing its stuff onto every single wave, which is really just the ocean. It's not going to work. Now think about, there's these schools, right? Pseudo-spirituality. Just you sit down in the class, instantly start talking about the highest reality. And you have a different personality. You have all of these personalities which come from different backgrounds. And you don't know how qualified, how ready is the mind, how clean is the mind, how pure is the mind. And so the mind sits down and wow, this is amazing. I'm beyond all of these forms. And it becomes a trip to escape. And it distances you, ironically, even farther away from the reality. Therefore, there's an order to how to pursue this journey. And it is not by going from subjectivity to the final reality, but from your own subjectivities, relatively cleaning them up. Because no one is going to be free completely from subjectivity. This is a fact. This is another thing that we have to say. Because often there is a belief that you need to get rid of all of your samskaras, your impressions of asanas. Right? You need to be totally pure. You need to be like a saint. And only then you can sort of understand this. So this is when we have our I inside the mind. So we try to make our mind attributeless, pure. You see this? But the mind is always going to have attributes. Therefore, nowhere in Vedanta does it say that you need to totally purify your mind, but relatively purify the mind. Okay? And in fact, one doesn't even need to say this, because if you are keeping with the laws, you understand how beneficial it is for you to be kind and to show your empathy, to show your love, to show your concern for others, because it makes you feel good about yourself. So it's not about, let me purify my mind so that I can understand this reality. But you've already figured out that living a relatively clean life benefits you in every way possible. And therefore, that mind becomes naturally attracted to this and gets it really quickly, without going on a trip. And so this intelligence that we speak of, it can be a relationship. You can have a relationship with it. How can I have a relationship with this intelligence if it's everywhere? Well, you still can. Because what happens is the mind goes on a trip. And so you put this mind in an airport, and it instantly gets influenced by 100 variables in the airport. You put this mind in a shopping center, and it also gets influenced by the shopping center. So therefore, we need something to relate. And this is why I like, we have gods and goddesses in the Vedic tradition, such as we have Brahma. Brahma is this intelligence, this all-pervading intelligence, when looked at from the standpoint of that which creates. It just creates. It's constantly, what is it creating? It's creating right now a new cell inside, a new white blood cell inside your body. It's not creating, you always go, oh, what's it creating? Let me see. Start with your body, right? All of this, biology is great, biology, because you see the Isvara's workings right in your own body. I had a picture of a cell, right? A cell, which single cell, and then you see this under a microscope and it divides into 4, right? So this is creation, it's Brahma. So Brahma has, if you see in the Brahma deity, 4 heads, so it can be 4 Vedas, but also indicative of looking in all 4 directions. That means I've got the whole world covered. There's nothing that I don't create. I'm looking in all directions and creating. I'm looking up, down, left, right, sideways, in all directions. When Brahma creates, now what is Brahma? It is Isvara, just looked at from the standpoint of the creator. Just a name. We have names for everything. When it creates, then what happens is, by the time this created cell, or whatever, created something, changes, right? There's a seeming stability. If you had no seeming stability, if you didn't see like one person just in one place, if you saw all of these changes, like, cells changing the body, skin cells falling off, new ones being born, it will be so overwhelming. Everything would be so overwhelming, you couldn't keep track. It would be like a dream. You can't hold anything stable. And so we have another name for it. We have Vishnu. Vishnu is that intelligence which gives you seeming stability of what is created. Seeming stability. Because if there was no stability, you would not be able to function in this world. But things have to move on, don't they? Things have to evolve. And so we can't just have a creation, we have to remove the old. We're often afraid of death. It's the most fantastic thing because death is the truth of life. Your brain cell has died to give way to the new cell. Your memory has died to give you way to clean up your mind and remember something else. We often say, oh, I've got a bad memory. Well, imagine if you remembered everything in your life and Shiva didn't come in and just sweep it away. Imagine that. You're just trying to concentrate or meditate, close the eyes, and 10,000 thoughts start to come into the mind. So the fact that we forget, thank God, thank Shiva in this case. So Shiva is that intelligence, the aspect which when something is created and it's given a seeming stability, it has to go away only so that Brahma can come in and create something else. And it can be sustained for a while by Vishnu, and that can be destroyed by Shiva only for Brahma to follow up, right before. We're talking about the same intelligence. And then we have Durga. You see, everyone in life needs help. No one can do it by themselves. We all need persistence. We need that willpower to sit down, to do something for a while. Everyone needs that time to function and get something done. Nothing can be done with 10 or 20 minutes. You need an hour or 2 hours for some quality work. This is a fact. So then I can pray to Durga. Durga, give me that strength, that willpower, so that I can stay awake, so that I can concentrate for some time, so that changes can happen in my life. Give me that persistence that I need to understand the depth of this reality. I can pray to Durga. And Durga, of course, has her own form. And maybe you like Durga's form. So you say, well, this is who I want to pray to. And you look at all of the intricacies, it's just, I'm not an expert at symbolism, but if someone is, then you can have a session. I love symbolism because you look at one symbol and just so many small nuances start to come and influence your thinking. Lakshmi is how much wealth do you have in life? And not just money, because the first thing, money. It's not just money. It's friends. How much friends do you have and who are caring and supportive and loving. How many friends do you have in your life? Or even how much resources do I have in life? Resources for energy, for knowledge. But you know what? Sometimes we have Lakshmi in our life. We have the resources and but we're not resourceful. Therefore, we need the help of Saraswati. Saraswati is the goddess, the aspect of intelligence of Isvara. It's all one intelligence, which gives you access to how much you can access your memory or your mind or your intelligence. Imagine having a lot of intelligence, but you're unable to access it when you need it most. Like I said, at the airport. At the airport, right, you're like, wow, this is, class, okay? Hopefully class is like this. At the airport, the whole thing's gone. Therefore, I invoke Saraswati. Saraswati, please give me access to this knowledge now, right? So that this can become relevant, so that I can look at the real world through the scope of this knowledge. Therefore, we have all of these choices to invoke, to relate with. Are you relating to some special goddess here, or you're only relating to Isvara? You're only relating to Isvara with different names and different forms. And there is then Dharma, all throughout creation. Everyone who comes to the world doesn't want to be hurt, and also knows, I don't want you to hurt me. I want to be treated fairly. But you also know the same thing. You don't want to be hurt, and you want to be treated fairly. This is a program that comes inbuilt. Nobody has to learn it. Now the question is, why do we violate this program? And I said this in the first session. Because of our pressures, our inner pressures for instant gratification. If I get it and I say this, it's going to, I think, give me some satisfaction. Until the person sees it's not really good for you, it's not really healthy for you, if you look into it, then the person will naturally, spontaneously stop, doing or being unfair towards people. I already discussed this in the first session. And when this law gets violated, then another law takes over, and that is Karmapala. This is another goddess, if you want to call it, a goddess called Karmapala. And what does the goddess Karmapala do? Well, she delivers you a plate of food, very delicious food, and you eat it, and you get sick. That is your papam, okay? It's not like she doesn't like you. My own actions have brought that into my life. Therefore, if you look at the world through different facets, you really start to have a connection to Isvara at all times. It becomes your refuge, it becomes your savior, it becomes your relationship. Because when nobody's around you, who's still there? Isvara. The intelligence making you what you are and making everyone else what they are at the same time. So it's a relationship that we start. We start a relationship with Isvara. It's a conscious decision. At the same time knowing the relationship with whom I am having, its truth, its reality, and my reality, they're not two. Isvara depends on existence and awareness. I depend on existence and awareness. Maya projects the whole. Maya projects the small individual. Both of them are just projections. The whole is limitless knowledge, limitless power. You and I are limited knowledge, limited power. We don't know. But where is the wise person's focus on? On the reality because of which I am, the reality because of which Isvara is. Without this knowledge, it's like getting inside a boat and you have not read the manual of how the currents work or when the When's the high tide, low tide? Don't go in there tide, smooth tide, I don't know. So I get inside the boat and I think I can do it because I'm consciousness. Suppose, right? Suppose you went to the class and you understood I am consciousness. And I get inside the world called the boat and I start to, with an oar, I start to paddle. Okay? And the waves are rough and they start to topple me over and I fall out of the boat and I get back in. All the while, my only refuge is, oh, I'm consciousness. It's not going to be a very smooth ride. I need to be in touch with Isvara, because to be in touch with Isvara is to be in touch with the laws, with laws and orders which are infallible. And if I'm in touch with the laws and orders, then automatically the individual won't find themselves in a rough seas. Automatically will be a smoother ride.
Isvara is all intelligence, and Isvara has made everything within this creation. And Isvara can only be Satyam.
The truth of Isvara is Satyam.
Then why are so many evil people in this world?
Simple, because as we explained, see, everyone gets born with pressures, right? This program is inbuilt in all people. And because this creation is since beginningless time, there was never a time when the person started, right? There was never a time when, okay, no person, now suddenly the person starts. The jiva always lived. The jiva always was, okay? And the jiva was always given a program of how to carry itself in this world. It was given a program of the right conduct. I don't want to hurt myself and I don't want you to hurt me. And therefore, there's an understanding. It's also the same from your standpoint. But then suppose a child gets born in a family whose dad dominates his wife, right? The husband dominates the wife. And the child interprets this as love. So love means dominating my spouse. So the child grows up and has a partner, and this unconscious impression starts to come out. And so I start to kind of, very slowly tell you what to do, when to come home, what not to eat, what to put inside the pot. And the wife gets extremely frustrated. You see? It's not like the boy, once upon a time, chose to be, have a distorted perception. By their exposure to someone else's distortions, they pick this up and they just carry this on innocently into the world.
Yeah, but at the point of creation, everything is dynamic.
There was never,
good.
There was never a point when creation started. It was always going on. And in this creation that was always going on, there was always a jiva who came with a program and who had its own ideas of what it takes to please myself. It never started once upon a time. There was always dharma, and there was always a jiva with its own ideas of what is right and what is wrong. So it was two things coming at the same time, not just one, two things. My own pressures and dharma. And my own pressures always win. Usually they win because they're much more fancy, they're more colorful, they're more romantic. They give me instant gratification. And through that, because it's so hard to hold oneself back, the individual simply gives in. And they say, I'm going to get my way and I'm going to, drive a loud car and for my own benefit. Because the inner pressure was always there. Dharma was always there also. That's why people are able to do things that are unfair despite this dharma being all throughout creation. Because there was never a point where dharma was, but there was no jivas. And then suddenly jivas were born for the first time ever. That didn't happen. Wherever there was dharma, that's exactly where the jiva was also. There was never a time when this creation began. There was always a person who had its own ideas of how things should be and shouldn't be. And therefore, this is just one more day of that. That has been happening since time immemorial. In the Western world, we sometimes have this linear model, right? Like it starts here, and then it ends here. In the Vedic model, it's not like that. It's different. It is cyclical. So in a circle, there's no point when I can say it began here, or it began here, or it began here. Every single point is both a beginning and an end, right? Every single point is a beginning. So this whole show that we're experiencing now has been going on for cycles upon cycles of creation. Even before this universe came, 13.6 billion years ago, there was another cycle before this universe. We don't know when it happened, but because of the cyclical nature of the universe, every single cycle, a new planet gets born, a new planet develops, and the jivas go through the whole evolution process from worm to monkey to so on. And slowly, slowly, they're able to observe the environment and go, okay, so, I need to survive, and I need to, obviously, for the sake of my tribe and me surviving, we have to get along, we have to hunt together. And then we start to ask, how can we have more convenience? Obviously, we don't want to hunt all the time. So then we go out and we start to, store food. We find ways to store food. And then we make more storage space possible, like rice and grains and so on. And then we say, okay, so I see this person, kind of having a little bit for themselves, and I'm going to share with them, and this is fair. And then you say, well, I can have a little bit more for myself. Why not? I can have a little bit more for myself. No one's going to see me because you're given the free will. You're given a free will to choose. Oh, nobody saw me. Okay, I'm going to just take a little bit for myself there. Next time it becomes much easier to do that. I'm going to take even more, 1 kilogram of rice. Little by little by little, this develops an orientation for getting my way at the expense of other people. And the person dies with this orientation, and it carries on, and the next life, there's a tendency to be attracted to similar things again. This has been going on since beginningless time, like this.
Does this mean that in the next cycle we start again as individual, the same journey?
Yeah, this same churning, right? Yeah, it's like a soup, constantly we get a resolution for a couple of, I don't know, a couple of billions or trillions of years, I don't know. But there's a cycle, the universe manifests, just like in your dream, you manifests, and it resolves into the conscious being, into one drg, one conscious being, full, limitless, that you are. From that conscious being arises this manifestation, owing to its power called Maya. And when it manifests, planets form and jivas get born. And they continue from yesterday. They continue from last creation. All they did was just went to a long sleep, a really long sleep.
But I'm out of this cycle when I get moksha.
Therefore, when the text comes, it finally says, it points out the limitations of living in this world with such a mode of limitation and sickness. We start out by being born, right? We asti. Now, considering you're alive, you survive, then you have to go through jayate, you have to be born, viparinamate, pakshiyate, disease, old age, and struggle for survival, and finding a job, and attracting a partner, and you're like, okay, so how do I come out of this cycle? I don't want to be born as a limited human being. I don't want this anymore, because it becomes so obvious to the individual that it's nice. It's not just suffering here, by the way, is it? There's a lot of beauty in this world. It's not just suffering at all. There's goodness, and there is sometimes downfalls. But the person sees the limitations of both. They say it's just a cycle of repetition. So they go into the methodology and understand The nature of I is much bigger than I thought. It's much bigger than this body. Don't say I'm not the body or mind. You heard this before? You are much bigger than your body and mind. To say I'm not, there's only one reality here. There's only one reality. And this body and mind is not excluded from that reality. Therefore, there's no need to say I am not the mind, I am not the body. I am much bigger. That's what Brahman means, big. I am much bigger than my body and my mind. Therefore, through this identity understanding, through this identity shift, we call that the knowledge has taken place. You have come here and you have done what you were meant to do, according to the Vedas, which is to understand your nature. And I keep saying in my webinars, to not know who you are is a crime. It's a crime. Because every time we're born here, we kind of, bother other people and, parents have to take care of us and we add garbage to the world and, it's just so much additions. So the greatest gift you can do is understand who you are, your nature. And that is what we call, the problem has been solved. Liberation. So liberation, of course, is nothing special, right? It's just who you are. You have changed your identity from this small individual to something that's much, much bigger than this individual. And therefore, no more cycles of rebirth. What happens is your body continues, your mind still continues, all of the problems continue, the ahamkara, the I sense, still continues. For example, Rama and Krishna's, the avatara, their ahamkara went through pain. Look at this. Their ahamkara went through pain. Rama lost Sita. Krishna was, having to kind of coordinate the Pandavas and Kauravas. It was every person's ahamkara, enlightened or not, has issues. But then what does the wise person understand? In the presence of consciousness, which is my real nature, this ahamkara has issues. Because it's a projection of Maya. So when there is an identity shift, then this is your last life. So when you finally drop this life, or I shouldn't say you, when this body finally gets dropped, then I'm one with myself, as I am right now. So you're not really one with anything, just minus the body. That's it. Just minus the body, minus the mind. That is it. Now you say, well, geez, that's kind of strange. I can't imagine myself being just awareness. We didn't say you're just awareness. That's why we have Sat Chit Ananda. You're not just awareness who's just existing. Imagine this. I am okay, I'm just existing as awareness. I'm like, no, I don't want moksha. Right? I don't want to exist as just awareness. You want to say, I want to be aware of beauty and fullness. Well, it turns out that is exactly who you are. Fullness. That's why we have Ananda at the end. So it's not like when the wise person dies, it's just blackness of nothing, and it's just awareness of self. No, there's awareness of self as that one who is full. What does fullness mean? It means that in this moment, nothing is missing. Just like when you're happy. When you're happy, there's no sense of me who wants something else. I just am as I am, and who is it that I am? Fullness itself. And what is fullness? It is that place in which you cannot say, I want something more. You can't, because that is an inadequate mind who is thinking of something else. But you are everything already. Everything is in you already. The entire universe is in you. The entire Maya is in you. Therefore, not only upon death are you just existence awareness, but you are also Isvara.
But it is not imaginable, just what you said. For a normal mind, it's not imaginable what you said. That is illusion. Just to think these things, really. We can't, as normal people, we can't think how such a mind like Isvara is thinking or feeling or whatever.
There's two definitions, sarvajna and sarvavit. A wise person is a sarvajna. Sarvajna means I understand. Who's this I? The mind. Because enlightenment is not for awareness. Awareness is already full. It is for the mind. I understand all that is here is clay. Suppose the whole universe is made out of clay. The wise spot says all that is here is clay. Because everything is clay. That's sarvajna. Ishvara is sarvavid. Sarvavid means not only does Ishvara know that all that is here is clay, but also knows how everything works. It knows how your heart works, how digestion works, how to form planets, how to combine gases and solids to create this entire universe. A wise person doesn't know that. All they know is all that is here is clay. All that is here is awareness. Manifesting as this, as forms. All that is here is Ishvara. So you see the difference? Otherwise, we go on a trip. We go, oh, wise person, that means they know everything now. They're able to kind of churn. You ask them, tell them, hey, go fly a plane. Suppose they say, oh, I'm a wise person, I know everything. Tell them, go fly a plane, please. They can't do it. You see? Because they're still limited in knowledge. But they understand the truth of everything is only one. And that is what you can understand. How? As a self-revealing I. I am. Now, there was a question by Mina who says, when you say, I exist, remember this? Who is saying this? Look at this. Because who's saying this? It is always Sakshi and Ahamkara who are saying it together. Sakshi can't say I exist because it is not something that says. He has no throat to say. He has no doorship to say. And Ahamkara, your I sense, can't say it by itself because it needs to be illumined by the Sakshi. Right? So when someone says I exist, you need the I sense to say that. But when you say I in that statement, the implied meaning, what you really are pointing to, is the understanding that all that is here is Ishvara, including the person who said that, and the truth of Ishvara is Sakshi. So when you say I am, who is saying I am? Sakshi and Ahamkara. You can't say that you are without being aware at all. They're always together, and you cannot separate them. That's why we had the iron ball. You cannot separate the fire and the brightness from the iron ball. So when this iron ball says, I am brightness, I am that which illumines this ball, then who said it? The ball said it. But when it says I, what is it referring to? That which illumines the entire content, the entire conversation, the entire thought of having said I. Going back to that example, suppose a wave acknowledges its waveness, first of all, and then it brings in one more entity called ocean. And it understands, after having brought in one more entity, the ocean, which of course you need to be firstly told about the ocean. Otherwise, where is our focus going to be on? The forms, other waves. After having brought the ocean and understood that every other wave also has its existence not apart from the ocean, and therefore by looking through its eyes, it sees all forms of these waves or expression of this one ocean. My question now is this positive thinking? To understand that every wave has its existence in the ocean.
Realistic?
Did you say realist?
Realistic.
Realistic. Is it negative thinking? No. Is it positive thinking? No. It is reality. It is objectivity. We call it objectivity. So Vedanta is a yoga of objectivity. It's just seeing things as they are, rather than this whole thing of positive, no, just be happy, uplift yourself. This is all fine. You can do this at your own time. But end of the day, Vedanta is just keep seeing things why they are the way that they are and putting them in the right place. So there's no space for positivity or negativity here. Rather just reality. What is the reality that is happening here? That's why we say it's a yoga. Yoga means it's the practice of being objective. And that's lovely because it puts you in touch with reality. Okay. So I would like to revise what we have done so far before moving on to verse 14. Verse 1 to 5 has talked about the 3 types of seers. Talked about the sense organs, talked about the mind, and talked about the sakshi. But what I would really like to analyze is verse 6 to 12. 6 to 12 kind of went in a little bit more in detail. And the question is, what is how did consciousness come? Right? How did consciousness come? It never came. It was always there. See this? This is called beginningless, anadi. Everything else comes in the presence of consciousness, but consciousness is the only thing that doesn't come. It always is. And since, because it's unborn, and since it always is, there was always a world. And because there was always a world, there was always a person. And because there was always a person, implied there was always ignorance. So is your first time here? Is your first time being in this creation? No. Since how long ago was it? Time immemorial. So one life, the individual comes through the grace of the Lord and solves the journey. And when they solve the journey, they understand that the reality is free of the projection. It's free of this coming and going of the projection. It's an identity shift. That's all it is. Now the question comes is, what is the function of this consciousness, which is the reality? What is if it were to have a function, what is the function of consciousness?
To keep seeing the changes.
To what?
To keep feeling or seeing the changes. That's it. Sakshi.
Give us the opportunity.
Of course, it's by its very nature, it's giving us an opportunity. So what is the function of consciousness in reference to your mind? We don't have to go out. Always bring it here. It's just to light up. That's all it does. It just lights up your mind. That is it. It has no capacity to light up the world. What lights up the world? The senses, sense organs. What lights up the sense organs?
Mind.
The mind. What lights up the mind? Consciousness. Therefore, consciousness by itself does not see this world. Consciousness is blind to the world. It requires the help of the mind. Therefore, the mind borrows the light of consciousness. See? The mind borrows the light of consciousness. The sense organs borrow the borrowed light of consciousness from the mind. And the sense organs, in turn, give light to the world. This is how perception happens. This is how consciousness becomes conscious or is conscious of the world. It needs the help of its own projection. It needs the help of Maya's projection. So there's an order here. First, the mind needs to be there. Consciousness shines on the mind. Sense organs are attached to the mind. The mind's light, which it borrows from consciousness, shines on the sense organs. And the sense organs, when they open, what happens? They give light to the world. And therefore you say, I am conscious of all of this. This is analysis into experience. Because we often say, oh, so what? Consciousness is like aware of all of this. Careful. Sense organs need to be open to recognize the world. That's why
it's so important to do good things with your mind. For example, meditation.
Without meditation, then what happens is the mind adds another addition onto what it sees. And when it adds an addition onto what it sees, it gets stuck there. Because it's like a little, when we carry a baby, right? Oh, baby, baby. But you know how many mothers I met, they think their baby is going to be a Buddha, the next special thing. So they're actually seeing a snake on top of their baby. You know the snake and rope, right? The rope is the baby. What is reality? But they're seeing a snake. And as long as they're seeing a snake, what is their relationship going to be to the snake? Very different than it would have been to the rope. And when one's living within this world and all I see are snakes from my own mind because I'm not doing enough purification, I'm not doing enough meditation, then I'm satisfied because your mind makes a very satisfying world. It customizes it exactly how it wants it to be. And there's no need to fix that because you're happy in your little world. Therefore, the person goes on for lifetimes like this, living in their own bubble, thinking, this is fine, I don't need to fix anything. Give me consciousness, let me add this into my own bubble. Otherwise, the whole relationship changes if I'm seeing a snake on top of you. And not only that, but when I see a snake, it induces fear. And I scream, and I scare other people. And it becomes their problem. And they say, what's wrong with you? There's no snake. And I was like, there is a snake. And there's arguments then. And I get caught up in the arguments. And that's just one event. You times this by 40 years, it's very hard to, to see clearly.
How can I let other people see the rope instead of the snake? If I want to. For example, my children are thinking bad things about me, but it's the snake. Can I do something? I have to solve it in myself. Eh?
So the situation is, when someone's projecting onto you, and this is not true, right? Maybe they see something, but you're also smart enough to know this is not true. There's a projection there. How do you deal with this? How do you deal with this? I mean, we can start with ourselves, of course. We can say, hey, may I not take this personally? May I just do my little part? Because if there's one tendency that we like to do, is we want to fix the kids. We want to fix the world. And that usually is, just a journey of a hardship. It's a hard journey. So what do you think?
Well, I say something. I had something similar situation, but really impossible to fix others. And I always focus on, what can I do for myself? How can I serve? How can my intention, is it right? So I was thinking, my intention is correct. Then that's only I can do. So I do my best for my serving others as I think it is the right thing to do. And then some of that, perhaps depending on the person, takes perhaps a little longer or shorter. Later on, they realize the truth of the intention is actually nice. Then some of, it kind of solve itself. That's how I noticed that. And really, I don't really try to fix others anymore. I don't do that.
I would, to solve, obviously, if you're in that situation, you yourself are upset about it. So be honest with yourself, be humble, try to get to the root cause of what is going on. Why is there the friction, rather than getting into an argumentative situation?
Okay. Okay.
But in order to do that, you've got to be honest to yourself to say what's causing this. Because yes, children, there is an attachment there.
Yeah, there is.
It's very, very difficult to break that attachment.
There's a certain space that we need, right, when it comes to confrontation. There's a certain, it's how we carry ourselves in that moment. When someone's right here, right now, what do I stand for in this moment? Do I stand for just kind of, saying my part? Or do I stand for preserving harmony in this situation? And is what I'm about to say going to escalate the situation, or is it going to bring some resolution, at least a little bit, at least 5% more harmony between us? Is this going to shut down the conversation that I'm about to say, or is this going to open up a space of trust and at least a little bit more of communication that can take place after this? So the question is, do I want peace in the situation, or do I want to kind of, just create some tension and then kind of let time resolve it, but it gets just all kind of buried in there and the unconscious? This is how I manage these situations. What do I want in this situation? Peace or discord? And the answer is always peace. So it's not always about winning. It's not always about being, even if you are right and because you may be more mature, it's not always about that. But just doing a little part, as Sok-Kyung says, just a little part that you can do that are keeping with this order of harmony, keeping with harmony.
And if the other person does not stop, have I to hold me back?
Yeah. So if the other person doesn't stop, then we have what's called setting firm boundaries. So this means the mode changes slightly. It says, look, I have done what I have done, right? I don't want this anymore. Okay, I'm not comfortable speaking or continuing this conversation right now. Setting that firm boundary, stating it, right, clearly, so there's no misunderstanding, and then getting that space for yourself. If we don't set boundaries, it starts to affect your own mind. So boundaries are crucial. It doesn't matter if I'm going to hurt the other, you're protecting yourself. Or what is causing the pain? First of all, I acknowledge this is painful. The mind is made to experience pain. That's its function. You can't get rid of that. It doesn't get rid of for a wise person, an unwise person, it's exactly the same. A pain is a feedback mechanism. It says something needs to change. If something can't change, then as I said, putting boundaries. So if you feel the pain, this is a good thing. At least you are sensitive to what's going on. How to treat this pain, this is very individual. This is a very individual thing. Yeah. But where is this pain? It is in the body. There is a brain that releases certain chemicals that contribute to the pain. There is a mind that also, gives you this loop of feedback, which is letting you know that something is not keeping with the laws here. Whenever you feel pain, there is something that is not quite aligned with reality.
Okay. This is the consciousness. But feels like if I want to, the border is too hard. You need to shut a complete border, make a border.
So you can't shut off everything.
Now you can shut up, but I can, what you told now, what you tell now, I can see it myself, but that feels then pushing the problem away.
Okay, so the statement is, it feels like I'm pushing the problem away. You are never pushing the problem away. Even whether you say something or don't say something, you're still communicating. Yeah. So this means, in what can I change my approach slightly to address this situation in a different way? Can I find some different ways of approaching this situation? We need to ask ourselves this. Because if we keep on approach him with the same approach, then you're going to get the exact same result. So this means we need to look into how can I change my style of delivery, right? Can I say, okay, thank you? Can I say something like, I acknowledge your feelings. I acknowledge how you feel. What do you suggest? Right? And you put them in power and you start a conversation like this. So just a slight twist of communication. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.